Bonjour tout le monde. Hi everybody. Mélanie Joly, ministre des Affaires étrangères du Canada. Mélanie Joly, I'm the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Canada. So I'm happy to be here. It will be our first meeting with the new Secretary General, Mark Rutte. Looking forward to working with him. I was just in Latvia meeting with the Canadian troops who are leading the very important NATO multinational brigade. We just, actually Canadian troops just finished a very successful military exercise. And this was the most important military exercise led by Canadian troops since 30 years. So we're very happy of the work we're doing here as a country and as a strong member of NATO. And at the same time, we've been able to triple our presence here in Europe, and in particular in Latvia since the invasion by Russia of Ukraine. And we're also training out of Latvia Ukrainian officers. So we look forward to continuing to doing that work. And now here, while we will be meeting with different foreign ministers from the alliance, we will have also conversations about the impact of the upcoming U.S. administration. And of course, being the neighbor to the U.S., it will be a pleasure for me to present insights about the U.S. administration. Donc, juste rapidement, j'arrive de la Lettonie où j'ai eu l'occasion de rencontrer les troupes canadiennes qui sont très présentes là, qui aussi dirigent un contingent, la brigade en fait de l'OTAN en Lettonie. Nous venons tout juste de terminer un exercice militaire très important, un exercice militaire aussi qui était le plus important exercice dirigé par des Canadiens en Europe depuis les 30 dernières années. J'aurai l'occasion d'avoir de bonnes conversations ici à l'OTAN avec mes homologues et particulièrement rencontrer le nouveau secrétaire général de l'OTAN, Mark Rutte, et aussi parler des impacts de la nouvelle administration américaine. It will be a pleasure for me to answer your questions.
What kind of insights are you presenting to your colleagues, and what does the Trump administration mean for the NATO and the future of the Ukraine?
Well, first and foremost, we know well first and foremost, Canada knows well, and the Trudeau government knows well, President-elect Trump. Prime Minister Trudeau was at Mar-a-Lago back Friday, and we've had the chance to work with them for 4 years in the past. I think it is important for our European allies to understand how much China and the Indo-Pacific is important to North America. It is important to the U.S., it is important to Canada. And there is a clear unity of different theaters when it comes to what is happening in Ukraine and European security, and also what is happening in the Indo-Pacific. We're seeing cooperation between China and Russia, and China being an enabler of Russia's war in Ukraine. We're seeing now DPRK troops joining Russian troops in the context of the war in Ukraine. And so it is important for our friends here in Europe to understand that, and I think that we can make sure that we work together on that. Why is that important? It's also important because we have a security architecture for Euro-Atlantic security, which is NATO. We don't have any clear security architecture for the Indo-Pacific. There are different minilaterals, including the Quad, that is not a security architecture, but a diplomatic minilateral. There is AUKUS, but we're pushing even more to be working with South Korea, with Japan, with the U.S., particularly in the North Pacific, because we're an Indo-Pacific country, and it is important also that we understand the true competition that China has been involved in, and the security threats that are linked to that region of the world.
Where do you see NATO's role in the current plan that is being presented by Keith Kellogg, the new special envoy on Ukraine by Donald Trump? How could NATO actually provide any security guarantees for Ukraine?
So when it comes to President-elect Trump, I think he's arriving for his second mandate at a time where NATO has fundamentally changed and has been reinforced. And countries are investing way more in defense than under his first mandate. And so in that sense, I think that we have a strong leader with the Secretary General, Mark Rutte, who has worked with President Trump in the past. We have also many countries that are investing a lot more. And I think that he is arriving at a time where we are very united in supporting Ukraine. And so looking forward to having conversations with the future Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, on this very issue. But I think also that it is up to us to make sure, as strong allies and as supporters of Ukraine, to talk about how much what is happening in Ukraine is fundamental not only to European security, but to North Atlantic security and to the world security.
In Georgia.
Sorry?
The latest events in Georgia, I know that Canada is going to impose sanctions against the high representatives of the Georgian government because they're
what would your message to Georgian people?
I will answer questions regarding Georgia. I actually answered questions yesterday because I was doing a Baltic 3+1 meeting in Riga, and I said indeed that Canada would be imposing sanctions on key officials and also entities in Georgia, and we will do so working, of course, with our European and American friends.
Yes, last question. Georgian people.
Yes.
The escalated conflict in Syria. Could you tell us your position in Syria, please?
Well, we're following this very closely. I've been in active conversations with many of my colleagues on this, and I will be meeting the Turkish foreign minister later today. So looking forward to having more insight on this issue. Of course, what we're seeing in the Middle East is there is a ceasefire in Lebanon, and that needs to hold. We have been calling for the release of hostages in Gaza. We've been calling for a ceasefire as well, and we want to make sure that ultimately Iran is held accountable, because Iran is spreading terror across the Middle East, and it cannot use its proxies to continue to do that, including in Iraq and including in Syria.
How are you countering hybrid attacks by Russia and China?
Yes. Minister, should NATO update its plans to tackle hybrid attacks? We're seeing more and more of them now.
Well, this is definitely an issue, and of course we've had many conversations about this at the table. Canada will be next year chairing the G7, and we will be definitely working on a maritime security approach, which will be about addressing sanction circumvention, addressing also shadow fleets issues, addressing undersea infrastructure, and making sure that we can address also illegal fishing, which is all linked to some of the hybrid war tactics that you're referring to. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup.